Okay, I've popped down here this morning just to have a look at this summer crop. Haven't seen it now for just over a week. It's been in just over 3 weeks. It's probably tripled its height in the last week, I would suggest. And we're starting to see some interesting things happening on this paddock. If we look down here now, the BMR sorghum starting to distinguish itself quite clearly from the millet. It's got in front of the millet now. They were a very similar size a week ago. But as you can see, the sorghum looking very distinctive with its almost maize-like appearance now that it's getting going. Whereas the millet over here is still tending to look a little bit more like an oversized grass. The sunflowers are doing what the sunflowers do now that they've got their root down. They're going to smoke past everything. They'll be well and truly ahead of the rest of the crop by next week. The buckwheat over here in the back, almost looking like a small grape at this point. That'll change shortly, but again it's looking really strong. We've got some linseed down here. It's really doing its best to keep its head up in the canopy as everything else starts to take off. It's going to be interesting to see whether that'll be able to hold its own as this stuff starts to get big. We've got a pea over here. It's trying to find something to climb up. It'll probably grab a hold of the buckwheat or the sunflower shortly and make the most of a bit of trellis. But I think the most interesting thing on this paddock has been, as you look over this way, you can see the texture in the crop from the sunflowers and the buckwheat with the bigger leaf. But as I pan left, we come around to the part of the paddock that was underwater for a significant part of the first day after it was planted, and the texture disappears. The sunflowers and the buckwheat have not enjoyed through this patch here being underwater, and they're only just starting to get up and germinate now. They're going to be a good 3 weeks behind the rest of the paddock. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not they can make any of that time up.